Here we go. Hey, friends. How are you all doing? Hope you're having a really good day today. My name's Seb. Super happy to be streaming again for you guys. How has the weekend been? I know I had a super fun weekend, a little bit chill, but definitely on the fun side. And yeah, I'm really sorry, guys, that I didn't catch the op to stream yesterday, but obviously Cinco de Mayo, so super important. Actually, no, guys. Well, hopefully you guys had maybe a little margarita if you're of age to drink, or a little bit of fun. I was super caught up with personal stuff, work related stuff. I officially made it into my new job. So clear the background checks, clear all that nonsense, reviewing legal docs, super fun things. But yeah, I didn't have enough time to stream yesterday. Super sorry about that. And I know that we are one day behind on our agile ceremony schedule. So super sorry about that. But I did want to share with you all the little draft that I completed of the finance course. So that was available since yesterday. Just as I need to work on sending notifications to you guys. I don't know if that's something you can do on Twitch or Kick without going live. But I know some YouTube channels do that, right? So maybe I'll look into that maybe this week, but it is what it is. So yeah, I did have to take some personal time yesterday. Couldn't stream. Super logged and loaded to go today at it though, and just get the most of it. But yeah, guys, having said that, I think that's what I wanted to share. I'm just gonna go over to sharing my screen. Actually, I'm gonna take just 1 second here to change a little context here. Let's see. Going over last sprint. Right. That should be a little bit easier for our new friends to catch up on what's happening. I think 30 minutes should be fine for this sprint review. But let's just get started with all this. And let's first get rid of those annoying ads. All right. Now we can roll. Right, cool. So that is done. I'm just gonna change my camera angle super quick. Hopefully my camera doesn't fall again. Yeah, I think this works. And guys, if you are doing presentations, I super recommend that you always stand up. You know, if it's some class project, well, you're always standing up during class time. But for corporate presentations, anything that requires you, to have a word, just take advantage of that opportunity. Standing up not only gives you more authority, which is super important if if you're presenting something, there's something that you want to share, trying to convey a point, and well, you'll gain more authority by standing up than just standing down. Like, it's your time to shine. Take advantage of it. But the important thing that also helps you in standing up is expressing your emotions, your ideas. It's just way more natural for you to express the things that you want to do. So just a quick recommendation and why I'm trying to make this work every time. You definitely want to get used to doing presentations standing up. All right, enough yap. So this is our third sprint. Super excited about the progress that we made. Now, I'm not going to go into any crazy stories like background stories, analogies like the last 2 weeks, um, because we are pretty much still in the middle of our last story. So, Sprint 2, we really worked on building up the different structures, laying out the foundations to work on our core skills, right? Agile finance and energy industry knowledge. And on the third sprint, well, we laid out, um, once we had that framework laid down, we really got to work on it, right? We started applying a lot of agile concepts. We started diving deeper into the energy industry. And in terms of finance, well, we started prioritizing it, right? And we were supposed to deliver, well, we strived to deliver a lot of different assets. Wanted to, yeah, share a little energy industry primer. We wanted to share little tidbits of an economic or financial dashboard with different KPIs in the finance side. And on Agile, we did strive to do a lot of the different processes and just be more fluent with how we perform the ceremonies. So uh, I'd say we accomplished most of it, but definitely didn't make a home run in every single aspect of those. So this fourth sprint, we are going to wrap those up nice and easy. And just like the blacksmith, what we're going to do is once that sword is out of the forge and we've tailored it, well, now it comes time to polish it, right? Give it last finishing touches. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing on this sprint, as well as planning for some of the most important things that we did have on schedule. So, third sprint, core skill mastery. This is what we were focusing on. How did we do? And specifically in Agile, well, one of the most important things, and you guys can see it here on the right side of the page, you can see that we had a lot of different must stories, right? Spanning across the three core skills. Pertaining to Agile, though, we had just one thing here with the Kanban board, just making the most of our Kanban board, establishing work in progress limits that is going to enable us to have a better flow, better rhythm, and prioritize accordingly for the upcoming week. And the most important aspect here on the Agile skill was actually conducting the scrum ceremonies, so our reviews, retros, planning, and the backlog prioritization and effort estimation with all the techniques that we had at our disposal, just being super thorough about it and going about it professionally. And I'd say we accomplished that. That's why it's on the dot column, right? So that's super important. But in terms of Kanban, right, we also worked on Kanban and started utilizing it better. So what are some things that happen on this sprint? Like I said, we established those work in progress limits. I'm going for 9 here on the backlog because it will allow us to have a good view of different work items, perhaps depending on the urgency, the mood that we're in, we might prioritize working on, or we might just feel like working on one work item versus another. So I want to have that flexibility in the backlog depending on how circumstances change. And that's why I'm keeping it at 9. I do want to keep focus on the things that I'll be working on today and that I'm doing at the moment. So I don't want to see more than 3 items on the today column because we have usually been working with items that span either 8 story points or 13 story points, and having more than that is just not going to be realistic, and we'll get to that in a couple more slides. So I think 3 is a nice number of things that you want to aim to do in one single day. More is just not going to be realistic. Then how many things are we doing, right? I don't want to distract myself with juggling a lot of different kinds of items. So I'm just gonna have two. And honestly, I'm kind of inclined of going to one, but sometimes it helps to do two things at the same time. So I'm just gonna keep it at two. Now blocked is interesting because maybe there's some dependencies here, and I'm the jury, judge, and executioner of all this project. So I'm having a hard time understanding what could be blocked other than things that are on pause because other things took priority. So maybe I'll think about how many items I want here on my blocked column, but I think three is good as a starting point. And then on done, I do want to see all the different things that we've worked on, especially because I want to show you guys what kind of progress we've been making. So that's why I'm going with 7 here. We'll see how it goes. In theory, once you've finished with things and put it in the done column, then you want your stakeholders or your final approver to get a good look at those items, and then you just remove it from the Kanban board, remove the clutter, make things flow nice and easy. So I do want to, I guess I'll say if there's one thing to do in this Kanban board is looking at the best practices for establishing work in progress limits to have a better sense of what are the best practices, what are some other thoughts and opinions on these numbers, and just going with what makes sense on a practical level. And then one more thing that we did, which is super important. It was so important, guys, to get work done, work on the most priority, or just the most important aspects of work, was establishing our story points and then prioritizing it using the Moscow framework. This really helped. I will show you guys how to change the little icons here in Jira in case you don't know about it. I'm not going to do it today, but I do plan to release a video. It's one of the things that I definitely think will have value for you guys. Just showing how to customize these things to get started as soon as possible with Agile. And that's a little bit about it from the Agile skill set. Now, what did we do in terms of, or what did we achieve in terms of getting that energy industry macro assessment or industry primer? So this is the big overview of the little data points that I gathered. I do have them, well, we can explore them a little bit in Figma. It's not a finished product by any means. I wouldn't even go as far as calling it a draft, but I do think it has a collection of important story points, elements that help us understand why the energy industry is important, why people, or we as a society, should put some value into its progress, just keep tabs on it. And obviously it has to do with climate change. So I'm just going to go super quick over the different charts that I compiled in Figma to show you guys just a quick overview of what the industry is going through. And I'm planning to go over this super quick, by the way, so don't expect a super boring presentation about this. So where are we at right now, right? In terms of how much energy we're consuming. You can see that the growth here is pretty much exponential. It has been exponential over the years since the Industrial Revolution. And this is just going to keep going up and up, especially driven from the demand of AI data centers. So we're looking at an ever increasing demand for energy consumption. And our supply, well, it's not like it's not there, we definitely have resources, but we need to be cognizant of the impact that we're having on the environment. So we want to transition into using increasingly more renewable or low emission, low carbon sources of energy. And that's where renewables, sources like solar, wind, sources of energy using batteries, um, hydro, all these clean ways of sourcing energy come in play. Super important. And we are making strides. Like, we have made strides too. Am I doing multi-stream, Eve? Yeah, I'm actually streaming on Twitch, Kick, and YouTube. Where are you joining us from, friend? But anyways, guys, so what are we looking at in terms of the representation of renewables through the energy consumption split? My Twitch, I'll just type it here in the chat, is ProGasser. I'm looking to change it fairly soon, but I'm still blocked from it. So that's how you find me on Twitch, friend. Do you stream too, or are you just a watcher? I imagine you're catching this on Kick, if that's the case. But yeah, guys, so we've definitely increased our share of renewable energy over the years, and we're somewhere close to 20%. We also do streams on Kick. Oh, you became a follow? Hey, thanks so much, Chief. Appreciate you hitting that follow button. Means a lot. And if you stream on Kick, I'll definitely check you out after the stream. Hopefully, I have some time after the stream because it is a little packed one. But I'll definitely hit you back, see what your channel is all about. Hey, thanks. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, so we're closing in on a 20% use of renewable energy sources, but that is not enough, right? This little chart here, which could benefit from having a little bit more context, shows the degrees of how climate change is changing, or well, how our temperature is changing due to climate change. If we do nothing about our current use or our current split of energy sources, we are literally cooked, right? We're literally cooked. But as we've seen, renewables have been taking a higher percentage of our energy consumption. And if that trend continues, well, we can expect to reach somewhere between 2.7 and less than 3 degrees Celsius of higher temperatures in the coming years. That is unfortunately not enough for us to have sustainable life on Earth, but it definitely gives us a way longer period of time to make things habitable on Earth, right? However, if we proactively push for policies and we try to enact this change with as much force as possible, we could look at an elevated temperature that is just at the 2 Celsius degree or below that. So that is super important, guys, to know and realize. I wasn't that aware of it before coming into the energy industry, but it is super, super important, and we should do everything we can to, if we are able to make that happen. I don't want to go over things that are really not that interesting. This is probably a good one. So, well, let's see. I follow you. What are we learning today? So today, Eve, I'm focusing on product management, and I'm developing all these little skills, right? For me to grow as a person. I want to share my journey, and I want to share how I go about it. So other people are encouraged to grow by themselves too. And today we're going over everything that I did or that I worked on last week. So in Agile, when you work, do you come from a from an agile background? Maybe are you a developer, product manager, something like that? In case you're not, I'm just explaining this super quick, right? You establish your time frame, your period that you're going to be working on creating something. That's something. It could be a product, could be a service, but you're adding value to that product or service, right? And you establish, okay, I'm going to take a 1 week time frame to work on this thing and add value to it, or maybe it's 2 weeks, or maybe it's 1 month, right? And after that amount of time passes by, you need to show what you've worked on, what you've provided of value for that, right? And so right now I'm showing what I've done in terms of improving my agile skills, what I've gained in industry knowledge, specifically in the energy industry. And then I'm going to go over this little finance course or finance crash course that I created, and I'm going to be polishing over the weeks. So yeah, after that, which is just like what I've worked on, and hopefully it's a little bit interesting for you guys to learn too. After that is done, I'm going to be going over what could have gone better. So that's called our sprint retrospective, which is literally just an introspection of ourselves and of our work. And then I'm going to be reprioritizing all my little work items using methodologies. And I am hoping it to be a collaborative session. So I'm going to give you guys some power to say, oh, this looks cool. This doesn't. I think you should prioritize this and that. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll see. But definitely let me know if something catches your eye, if you want to know more about it, because yeah, we're kind of winging it here. So guys, getting back on the energy industry thing, what's important to know in terms of the types of energy sources that are available for us? So capacity factor is pretty much when you have a source of energy and you transform it. It's like a rock. It's literally coal, right? And you transform that all the way so it powers our light in our house. How much of that energy is retained when you convert it to the facility or the power plant, right? That is called the capacity factor. And we can see that there are some technologies that are way more efficient in that aspect than others, right? So nuclear is by far one of the better options out there. Obviously, there's risk associated to it, but it is a very clean, and low carbon impact source of energy. And then you have things like natural gas, coal, oil, so all these traditional sources of power. And at the very bottom, you have wind and solar. So it's important to make some distinctions here. And the key thing is that we need to use different kinds of energy sources based on the different types of applications or how we want to go about powering our electricity grid. And you can think about this as diversification to some point. Some types of energy are going to be useful at some periods of time, some use cases, and others are going to be more relevant, more affordable, and more clean in others. For example, right, if we need a high outburst of energy at a specific point of time and we want it to be super reliable, we can always depend on fossil fuels to just burn them up and get that energy requirement over with. But if we want to make things more affordable and cleaner and sustainable, we can rely on wind and solar energy, which are actually at a point where it's commercially more viable and just more financially attractive than traditional resources, but they suffer from variability, right? You depend on the weather, and there are definitely certain areas where renewables are going to be harder to implement than traditional energy sources. So you want to balance those out based on use cases, but definitely transitioning into the cleaner ones, not just because it's like the right thing to do, but also because it makes financial sense. And yeah, this right here, you can see what the carbon footprint is from the most harming sources of energy to the most cleaner and leaner ones. And this is just for us to keep in mind, right? We definitely want to transition away from coal, and for the fossil sources of energy that impact the most, like natural gas, you want to implement things like carbon capture technologies to reduce that impact, because they're never going to go away, right? We're never going to get rid of these sources of energy, but you do want to mitigate that impact. And yeah, we've taken a look at what our energy consumption looks like in terms of the different types of energy. Like I said, renewables is about 9% of what we currently use. But here's something that I found super, super interesting. The energy conversion efficiency. What this means is, again, let's take coal in this little example here. If you, and this is measured in like thermal units, doesn't really matter, it's just a unit, right? But if you take 1,000 units of coal, or 1,000 thermal units of coal, and it goes all through the supply chain, right? From when it's extracted to when it's refined at the power plant, and it goes through transmission lines, it gets to your home as a source of energy. That step, right at that moment till it is available at your house, you only get about 30% of all of the energy that lump of coal could have provided as energy. You only get 30% of it. The rest is lost. It's just inefficiency in the process that is lost, and you get to keep a third of it. Now, I just realized this graph is it could use a little bit of editing. So what does this look like for renewables? So here's the thing I'll say. Wait, let me see if I can get this removed. No, okay. So yeah, that's the amount of energy that is available at your house. But if you try to use that energy into actually using it, say like lighting a light bulb or using your stove, something like that, you only get to keep 5% or less than 5% of the total, right? And that is, that's exactly so for 1,000 units of heat, you only get 15 of usable energy. So the loss is, it's crazy how much energy is lost and is put up into the system. What does renewable do for us? Renewables give about 3 times more usable energy than coal. Don't quote me on that, because this is a very superficial compilation of different data points that I've gathered here. But yeah, you basically get to use, if you get 3 times the usable energy conversion from renewables, then that also means you get to use only a third of the energy requirements, right? So this has the potential for us to slash our energy consumption by about what would this be? Like over half of it, right? So that is something that I found super, super cool. And if you have that in consideration, if you consider that if we transition all the way to only using renewables, then our total energy consumption is going to lower dramatically. And that takes us to this little data point here where, we said that, well, we're only powering about 8.5% of total demand through renewables. But if you do that conversion, then we're actually powering almost 20%. I wouldn't be surprised if this is more closer to 20%, since this is a 2023 figure. So that is super cool. And well, this tells us 2 things, right? One, that we've made progress in renewables. It's not like symbolic. We are definitely making an impact in our total energy consumption, but also that there's a lot. there's a lot of room to go, and that means opportunity for the industry. So that is something super cool, that there is still space for the energy industry. I'm running low on time for the retro. Sorry, for this sprint here. So I'm just gonna say that all of those figures that we just checked, that only pertains to electricity here. So our demand for energy is split in three main use cases: generating electricity, generating heating, right? Like literally the heating, the cooling in our homes, and then transportation. So there is way more opportunity to create these opportunities and spaces in heating and transportation. So we're looking at a very, very interesting opportunity here to increase the impact of renewables. And guys, that is what I have for you. I know this is like a little draft, but I thought that it was enough information to make it interesting for you. I know there are some things that I personally want to include that I didn't have the time to, but I think it's a good enough overview of why renewables are important and what they do for us and where we are at right now. So hopefully that was interesting for you guys. What are some things that we're missing in that presentation and that I like to see and that I'm going to work on and progressively adding? What's the opportunity, right? What's the dollar amount of the things that are out there? How much cash can we make by powering up new energy sources? What are the drivers? We briefly talked about AI data centers. Obviously, we all know that's driving that demand for growth, because in developed economies, the demand for energy is not going to grow. It's not going to grow exponentially, if not for things like AI. So, what are other things that are driving that growth? Then, what's the advantage per energy source? Right? I told you guys that you should think about energy sources like diversification, and it'd be super important to know wind. Wind is perfect for this and this. It's not so good for this and that. And it compares to, right? This is how it compares to maybe coal or something like that. I like to see that. I like to see what are the biggest industry players, what are they doing in the overall environment, and what are the trends that we can see, what are the biggest trends impacting the industry. So those are things that are still missing and that I want to focus on. Okay, so I'm gonna go a little bit overboard here, over 30 minutes. That's fine. I just wanted to show you guys super quick that the finance crash course is available. You can find it in my bios, all of my bios. The link is there. Feel free to explore around it. Definitely let me know if what you think. I think that it's a good starting point. I definitely wrapped up the structure for it, but the one thing I'll say is that it definitely needs tweaking, because things like financial statements, like absolute finance basics, are not present. And I do want to rearrange the chapters so that it's more pedagogic and it's less redundant. So definitely expect changes. But if you want to get your feet wet, I think this is more than serviceable to get started. And what else? Well, I'm just gonna press on our little timer here so we can time ourselves better. And that's about it, guys. That's the 3 core skills done over the week. How did we do in terms of our estimated effort and impact? So I'm gonna put my glasses here for this. So we we shot really high. We aimed for the stars here, right? Wanted to do 250 user story points over this last sprint. Well, we actually got about 60 of them done. Not too shabby for one person. So definitely happy about that. But this is telling us that we are overshooting in terms of scope. And I want to go over the most important stories that we completed, right? We broke down super big stories. We know that we have an issue in our optimist expectations of effort. So we're bringing those down by breaking the stories up. Then we made the finance roadmap available. That, guys, that took so much time. Like, I think I spent 3 days working on it and I sized it for less than one. So something happened there, right? I definitely got on the first day carried a little bit away over doing more than just the structure because I was going through the content of it and seeing if it made sense. And I got a little bit too carried away. And then it just took more time than I expected to polish some of the parts. So yeah, but that's what it was. Then another super important thing is I took more time than I expected in reaching out to other rotation professionals at the company that I'm going to be working on to let me know what's important, what do I need to learn, what would be useful to know before coming into rotation. And like I said, I'm a little bit socially anxious, so that took more time than I expected. But super important because it's going to shape what we do here on out. So that's huge. That's a huge one. And then things that got pushed, one of the most important ones were the bigger ones that we didn't deliver on. So compiling the data for the industry primer, that was kind of a miss. I really wanted this to be more resourceful, more just on a better state, of quality. But yeah, we got that pushed due to time. We definitely didn't do any kind of dashboard development for econ or finance. That is probably a little bit out there. For right now, the most important things that I need to get done is prepping to speak with all these nice people that I'm going to be chatting with this week for my upcoming rotation. I want to get the finance crash course done with based on their inputs because I need to start actually applying it and go through emotions with you guys. And yeah, that's basically about it. I think adding UX and design thinking tools into the process, it's a little bit overkill for where we are right now. Maybe I'll look to include it 2 sprints down the line because I do think it's important to think about systems, but we are just pressed with other priorities. And what could we gather from our estimations versus the amount of work that we actually got done? Well, we can say that our average is right around 40 story points. So we should totally aim to get that amount of work done for this week. We'll see how this estimate changes, but I feel super good about doing 40 user story points. That closely amounts to 1 large story per day, so it kind of tracks. And then let's see. What are some pending stories? We roughly talked about these, or we went over this broadly. The finance crash course is super important. The industry primer is super, super important. Like those are 2 things that are definitely getting done this week. But more important than those are the rotation chats, and that's happening. First chat is tomorrow. So right after these ceremonies, I'm going to be working on my questions, right? The types of things, how I want to approach it, prep a little bit maybe. So that is going to be top of mind, top of the line here. And then in terms of Agile, I am looking, guys, for ways in which I can make this available for you so that you can kind of have a better gauge of the progress that we've made along the weeks. But Jira is not super friendly about sharing things with people from outside your project. So I have to take a look at how to make this happen. Updating the project timeline, super important because we are about 2 weeks behind our original schedule. So we're going to have to start looking at things that are going to be out of scope and reprioritize. So that is another important one. And then lastly, I think, we push storytelling comms. The reason why I wanted to press on it previously is because obviously we're using it, right? We're using it right now to do the streams, to the presentations, and I think it elevates the content for you. It makes it more interesting. And that's why I've had it since like week 2 or sprint 2. But unfortunately, we've had to focus on the here and now, and it just kind of got deprioritized. I'm hoping though that we can catch some of it before doing short form content. I don't know if I'll get to it this week, but I know I'll definitely have to take a look at it before we do our first short form video. So definitely something that we'll work on in the near future. And to wrap this up, guys, I know we're almost 10 minutes overboard. Oof, that was a little bit too long. Well, we did get sidetracked, but nevertheless, we need to define our fourth sprint goal. And the one thing that I'll say is we need to get this sword polished. So we are gonna wrap up our industry primers. We're gonna deliver the promised assets. That's the main focus for Sprint 4. Deliver on the assets that make evident that we put our knowledge to practice and then that we've internalized it. That is super important. Then prepping up the chat. So, sorry, got a little bit carried away there. And we are going to work on the plan for the short form content. So this is all about wrapping up the last week with those deliverables and then prepping for what should have been this week, which is creating the plan for the media content. Going to set that up for the following week so that then we can just go into execution mode. And then next things, right? Prepping the chat questions, already talked about it, super important. We're going to finish the structures for the course and primer. That is definitely what's going to happen right after that. And once I have the structures for, especially for the finance crash course, I'm gonna be going with it, gonna be going through it with you guys in real time. So super excited about that. And once all of that is done, we can focus on preparing that media content plan, which I'm super excited about. Marketing, so fun. And I have a couple of ideas. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm excited for that. Having said that, guys, if there are any suggestions, things that you might have caught on from the weekly streams, maybe from this presentation, if you think, oh, what about you didn't mention this thing, definitely let me know as things pop up, because I still have about a little over 1 more hour here of work and going through the different agile ceremonies. But that wraps up the sprint review. I hope you guys enjoy that. I hope it was a little bit interesting to know more about the energy industry. I know I definitely learned a lot about it, and I'm just left with more questions now, which is always something good. Keeping that curiosity up and learning things. That's also super good to do. There you go. I think that angle works. All right. And man, I would really like a glass of water right now. I'm suffering that I didn't prep my glass of water. I'm just gonna roll over into our little sprint retro because we are a little bit behind schedule here. So let's see. For the sprint retro, right? I don't know why. I'm pretty sure I put my little quadrants, I had set them up. I don't know why it kind of retconned. But let's just move this line a little bit here. Now we can get started. Hey, Chinita. How are you doing? Thanks for joining in the chat. All right. So I'll start by the things. You always want to start by the positives, right? So some things that I was super excited about this sprint was where this is a new tool for me, Confluence. Where stickers here, super big. I guess we're writing in the sticky notes. Oh, okay, yeah, it's all down here. Felt so dumb. Okay. Ooh. Oh, you can make this smaller? Okay, interesting. Guess if the stickers are not able to be smaller, we're just gonna have to make our little retro here bigger. There we go. All right, some things that I felt good about. So finishing things always feels so good. And I would say the most important one. Oh, guys, I didn't even tell you this when we were in the sprint retro or the sprint review, but I reached out to 3 different people and they all got back to me. So that's huge. 100%. What do you call it? Not success ratio, but this is not this is not staying like that. What do you call it when you send emails and get percent and get replies back as a percentage? Response rate, right? Response rate. Yeah, there we go. Okay. 100% response rate. Huge. So, by the way, you usually get about 30% response rates if you're sending out emails, especially if it's a cold email, right? You increase your chances, though, increase your chances of success if you say something about the person. Obviously you need to research, you need to do your background research. If you have friends in common, you can ask them for an introduction. But if you're going for a cold email outreach, expect less than 30% response rate. So 100% response rate, huge. Then what else? Finishing up, right? Wrapping up the finance crash course. That was amazing. I'm really, really excited to get going with it. Actually, and like I was saying, I went through the first chapter of it with ChatGPT, and it was really, it was actually fun. It was fun. You felt like you actually learned a lot of stuff. So I'm super happy about getting that out there, right? Just getting it out there. We are going to tweak it, but it's out there, and that's what's important. We can improve on it. And then I think those are the 2 big wins for this week. I'll say one more thing. One more thing that was super, super exciting about this week is, guys, I feel like I really nailed this whole agile thing. I think it's starting to click. So I'm excited about that because we used agile or scrum tools extensively. I think we are finally at a point where we're using appropriate tools at the appropriate times, and we're not leaving anything unscathed. So I think those are 3 very important wins. I'm just going to put them on the little island, little treasure island here. Okay, that's a little bit better. Things that were okay, no. Actually, guys, I'm going to go straight into anchor mode. but I want a different color of sticky note. How do I change this? Here. Gonna go with a little red here. And yeah, I mean, job, life, I know, but making those background process checks, like signing the papers, oh my God, yeah. So work, right? I'm just gonna call it background checks just to make it a little bit more generic, but also like finance, like money. I don't know how to even put this, but I spent not half of the weekend, but a good bunch of the weekend just thinking about like our finance situation. And there was this big news that broke out that represented a lot of risk for my, well, I call them investments, but it's more like lose investments because we've lost a lot of money on it. Anyway, that kept me up from working Sunday at least. So just call it financial stress. I think that's a little bit more generic and broad. Not to worry though, like that is all in the past. So we are definitely good now. Now let's think about tailwinds. Oh my God. Comfortable with Agile. Definitely. I think estimating our efforts, being comfortable with the processes, I think that many things flow so much easier. And yeah, I mean, that's it. I'm trying to think of one more thing that really helped this week, but I'm having a hard time thinking about it. They say that if you stop and think for 10 seconds, something usually comes up. So I'll stop and think for 10 seconds. Okay, right. So ChatGPT, I could have not done the Agile crash course without ChatGPT. And I know that I've leaned on ChatGPT a lot, or that I'm always like consulting with ChatGPT. You'll always see me going back to ChatGPT, but this is enabling so much of how the finance crash course works and how I'm gonna make it work that I think it deserves a special mention this week for sure. And I'm gonna call it finance here, just so we're clear. And then lastly, risks. So we definitely have a risk here with estimation, story estimation, right? We kind of tackled on it with Anton's suggestion of breaking down our larger stories. So if you have an XL or an XXL story, that is a warning sign to break it up so that you don't go overboard with that estimation. But also, and there's this little chart where you're usually going to be 4 standard deviations away from the actual result and estimation effort when you're starting out with a sprint or with a project. And as that project continues, well, your estimations are going to be more accurate. So, yeah, this was definitely a risk that we hit. We didn't avoid it. We definitely hit this risk of story estimation. It hit us hard. Why do I have 2 story estimations? So yeah, that definitely impacted. And then risks ahead. So guys, I was planning on doing something like super silly for the short form content videos. And now that I cleared the background checks. I don't know how ridiculous I want to be about it. Like I'm having second thoughts about putting up, for example, right? Like the ASMR streams. Not that anyone, well, I don't really know if anyone enjoyed it or not, but it's just like I don't want to be tempered by it. I don't want it to reduce my creative process or anything like that. So I think I'm gonna put something like professionalism as a risk because I really don't want it to make this less interesting. We'll see how that goes. We'll see. We'll see. But now comes the most difficult part of this, which is what are we taking from it, right? What is the one blocker, the one thing that we need to act on? And well, let's take a quick look here. Well, we've cleared all of the anchors. There's not much that we can do about this. There's not much about the tailwinds either, because we are on track with everything. The wins, they're just wins. Maybe there's something here we can. No, so we'd have to look at the potential risks here to identify anything that we can work with. Maybe something about story estimation, right? And I put this, or I talked a little bit about this in our sprint review. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and add it to our sprint backlog. And what I'll do is make sure to estimate this sprint's workload based on yesterday's weather. I think that is the most important thing we could do, or we can take away from the sprint retro. And just to be sure that I'm not missing anything, let's just quickly go over the categories of things, right? People, interactions, processes. So for those three, I'm not really. Well, yes, actually, people and interactions. So, guys, I told you that I want to make this more interactive. And for the sprint planning session, I will need to take about one focus cycle to lay up the interface so you guys can interact with it. But maybe, yeah, this is super cool. I'm going to put interaction as a risk. I know that my streams are not the most interactive ones, and maybe it's by nature, right? Because obviously co-working and co-studying streams are very chill, and they're not meant to be yap sessions. But I also know that a lot of streamers enable the ability for you guys to track your own activities, be a little bit more engaging. So a potential risk or problem that I'm not seeing is that I can improve the interactability of my streams or just the progress that I'm making. Interactivity and progress visibility. Yeah. I think these two are definitely things that we should work on. For story estimation, I'm just going to add here real quick to our backlog. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but I want to scope this sprint. Okay. Mind yesterday's weather during sprint for workload scope. A bit of a mouthful. I bet there's a fancier way or a more intuitive way to phrase this, but I think it gets the job done. Yes, definitely a must. I just want to get that in the backlog. I'll reprioritize it and complete it later. And then for interactivity and progress visibility, I already have a work item to make things more visible for you guys. So I don't think I'll add that. But interactivity, yeah, I'm just going to leave it in the sprint retro because I do have work items that pertain to exactly that. So I think adding this is good enough. But that's it, guys. All right. Awesome. So 20 minutes for a sprint retro. I think that is pretty solid. Pretty good time frame. We did go over 10 minutes in the sprint review. So it kind of balances out. Not that you'd want to take more time on the sprint retro anyway. So I'm super happy with this. But yeah, guys, if you've joined recently, thanks for joining in. Appreciate you being here as always. We did make this little sprint review and all of the agile ceremonies after Monday because I had a ton of personal stuff going on yesterday, which may or may not have involved Cinco de Mayo. But yeah, just happy to be here with you guys. And I know we're in the middle of our focus cycle, so I'll take advantage of these little minutes that we have left to grab a little glass of water and then join you guys after the break. But thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. All right, guys, focus cycle's over. Make sure to grab a little something for you. My throat was killing me. I really needed that glass of water. But make sure to stretch, decompress. Just take the time to not be focused on work if you are following that Pomodoro cycle. I know I got so burnt out. Oh, actually, that's something that I should have put on my retro. I got so burnt out over the weekends, guys. Especially Saturday. I mean, I was going nonstop at that little finance course, which I've heard that you guys need access to it. Um, Probably can't send me over screenshots, but I'm gonna try to access it on my phone. See if maybe maybe I'll see what you guys are seeing. Notion, finance crash course, business decision making. Let's see. Oh, someone already did this. Okay, looks like my 1 day Notion finance crash course is not top of CEO metrics. Like, it's definitely not showing up on Google, so maybe I'll just have to look at it directly in Notion. Mm. Oh, so you need to sign up to Notion to be able to access the crash course. I didn't know that. That's a little bit of a bummer. I was really shooting for like super broad availability. Maybe Substacks. I don't know if any of you guys use Substack. I mean, there's some newsletter that I follow. I mean, I don't really read, so I don't it's not like I use it, but maybe I'll check out Substack, and if I can migrate what I've done on Notion to Substack and it's just easier to access, I'll give it a go. Otherwise, guys, sorry about. So I didn't even know. I didn't know you had to register Notion, but that is a bit of a bummer. But I was saying, burnout. I was working so hard on all the pending things that I literally on Sunday, yeah, Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, after I was done with all of my personal things, I really wanted to keep things moving forward for the project, but I just couldn't. I was so burned out. Oh my God, I started eating chips, like a whole bag of chips. I love junk food, man. It's so good. So good. But I am so weak of will that I'd rather just delete distractions, right? Because my willpower is so low that I'd rather just not have to think or be tempted by games or junk food, sugars, desserts. Oh my God, so good. Uh, but yeah, I digress. I had the roughest of times to log in over Sunday because I just couldn't handle it. So that's why taking the break cycles is important, right? And that reminds me that on Saturday when I streamed, I think I stayed up super late at night. I think it was a 5 hour stream. And I took no cycles whatsoever because I was so behind. I kept wrongly estimating, okay, I'm going to be done by this cycle. I'm definitely going to wrap it up on the following one. It just kept bleeding over. I took no breaks and I really paid the price for that on Sunday. So yeah, don't push yourselves too hard because you'll pay the price for it eventually. We kind of need I feel like I've always worked that way. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if you share this, but I'll always like go into extreme log in mode and then have like the biggest crash out ever. All right, guys. So break cycle is over. I still need to get the sprint planning session done, which I wanted you guys to participate in, but I need to do the interface. And I also need to cut the stream short by like in about 40 minutes. I'll need to cut the stream short, maybe just a little bit longer over that. So here's what we'll do. I'll put 10 minutes on the clock for focus time. And at the 10-minute mark, whatever I have for little interface here to interact, we'll just go with that. But and we'll use the 20 minutes left on the focus cycle for the sprint planning, the collaborative sprint planning session, because I think it's going to be super fun. It's the first time I'm going to be doing it, so we'll see how it goes. But no time to waste. So I'll just mute my mic and get on with it. Meet you guys in 10 minutes. All right, guys. I think I know how to make this work. So first off, I'm gonna share with you all the link to this Miro template here. And well, first off, I want to see, here we go. I need to give you guys access. So this is going to be by a feature. And let's see, anyone with the link, editor. All right. And that should give you guys access to play around with this little board here. Once you're in, I'll be able to give a little parameter here to give you guys money. And the way this is going to work is depending on how many people sign up for, or I see people here in the dashboard. So I see a visiting architect here. Hey, friend. So depending on how many mouses I see, I'll give a little price or a little economy, like our GDP. Let's call it our GDP, right? We'll have a total GDP, which I'll feature here. GDP equal, I'll just call it points. Let's just keep it nice and easy. Points. Let's make it a factor of, let's see, we have 45 points here, right? And for these 35 points, let's prioritize and only make 30 available. So we can only buy 30 points from all of the features that we have here. And the idea is that we will each receive, oh, that's you, Timmy. All right. So we're going to give you some money and you're going to go shopping, right? And now we will all be shopping together. And depending on how much money we put into things, we'll be able to buy some things or another. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create the money here. And I wonder if there's a money sticker. Let's see. Money. Oh, we do have money stickers. All right. So each of these stacks will be worth 5 points. And we just put a little note here so that we can cash equal 5 points. So we can all keep track of how much this is worth. And let's see. Oh, we have 3 friends in total in this little exercise here. And friends, feel free to join in. I'll give you guys 1 more minute. But what we are going to do here is I'm going to put, for now, 3 little groups of money, 1 for each of us. And you will all get to spend this money however you want, in any way you want. Just put these tags in whichever feature you would like me to prioritize. And then I will use that to rearrange what we have here on the product backlog to get things done. So whatever you guys would like for me to get done, just vote on it with your money. And that is pretty much what we're going to do. I think it's going to be the 3 of us. So let me just count our money here. We have 15 times 3, that's 45. Okay, so I'm gonna collect tariffs from all of you. You get $10 each, and we all get to vote on 2 different things that we want to get done. Right? So here I see that one of our friends has voted for finishing the energy industry primer. I also want to by that feature. So I'll also put 5 on here, and this feature is but. So that is one thing that we are totally going to do. And now we just need to think really hard about where we'll put the rest of our money in. And let's see. Well, actually, I'm gonna reserve my vote for last because I don't want to influence this at all. So I'll think in my head, and then I'll see where I want to spend my money after you guys have given it a go. Okay, we have one friend who is in the board but hasn't spent any of their money yet. So, how are we gonna go about this? Okay, for now, we have oh, is our friend online? Is our friend online? Friend, so if you didn't have the chance to catch up with what we're doing, you have $10. Each stack of money represents $5, and you get to buy whatever feature you want from the board, right? Yeah, you could spend $5 on something that costs 10, and maybe I will pitch in to complete it, or you could decide to prioritize one of the 5. It's fine. Like whatever you would prefer to see get done. Maybe you get to learn a little bit something from that, or it just seems more fun to you. You get to vote with your money of what you want to put that money to work in. But I am reserving my vote for last, just so that I don't influence the outcome. But I do know where I want to spend my money at already. So go ahead, no pressure. We do have the whole 10 minutes here. So it's fine. You can take your time. But yeah, guys, this is so much fun. I love this. The idea is that you pick the most important features that you're going to be working on this sprint, and then you give everyone the opportunity to vote. That is a very democratic way of prioritizing the stories. Maybe that's how you can, you could use it 2 ways. And this is just what I'm thinking of intuitively. So the one way you could go about it is that is how you're actually gonna prioritize things, meaning you could still aim to get everything done, but the order in which you will do things, well, you could use this to get these things that were bought at the very top of everything. And the other way is okay, maybe there are some stories that are evidently not going to be prioritized. So you could see to get those out of scope and just not worry about them. You could deprioritize essentially. All right, so this is the last split, right? Okay, we got a little variability here, and it's interesting to see that the energy industry primary got the fat stacks here. Now, unfortunately, I'm gonna play Mr. President here, and I'm gonna move one of the stacks to the Agile crash course. Oh my God! I can't believe this was meant to be finance crash course, guys, not agile. But anyway, I rearranged the money either way because we bought the energy industry primer. So I'm just reassigning this to the one thing that I know is super, super important because I do want to, in the co-working, co-studying sessions, I am going to be doing the finance crash course. So that is something that I know I'll super prioritize. And this was so much fun. Let's see. Finance crash course, industry primer, and then, oh my God, update the project timeline roadmap. That is something that I so really don't want to do, but need to get done. So I'm happy that someone who voted for that, by the way, I'm so happy you did because that's a little bit of tough love. It's something that I've kind of pushed away, but I think it's going to be so important because I want to know what I'm going to be missing out of. Essentially, what I'm not going to be able to do just because of the time that we have left here on the weeks before starting the job. And then insights of the company formal organization. Okay, so that's a little bit interesting. I definitely wouldn't thought that would have made the cut. So I'm gonna take a look at the org of this little company, and oh, it was Chinita. Hey, nice Chinita. That's a good one. I'm so happy because yeah, I really need to take a step back and see what we're doing here. It'll maybe even make me a little bit more ambitious to get things done because I'm running out of time to get everything on the clock, right? And let's see. Yeah, so this threw me off, but hey, we bought it. It is a democracy, and you voted with your money. So we're going to be prioritizing that. It's only, I think it's a 5 on the effort. User stories will take me about 2 hours tops. So that's a cool thing we can definitely do. But all right, friends, that's it. What did you think about this? I like this so much. It's so fun. I think that regardless of the outcomes, if you are in a super stressful or high stakes environment, I think that this is an input, right? Ultimately, this tells you what the team is thinking about, where their preferences are aligned. But at the end of the day, if you're a product manager, you're gonna have to make a decision and see if these things are going to be prioritized or not. You're going to have to make those tough calls. But this definitely helps to sense where the team is at mentally and where their head is at. So it's a good gauging tool for the team. I liked it. I liked it a lot, and it wasn't as hard to do. I think I didn't share this. So the process, right? You count all of obviously you put a price that is proportionate to the effort of each task, and then you count all of the money that it would take to buy all the features, multiply by 70%, and that is what you're going to be available to spend, right? And then things are going to be prioritized naturally just because of that restriction. So that's it. That's the gist of it. We did it. We made it. And guys, that is going to be it for me. I know that was fun. Good luck. Hey, thanks, Timmy. Thanks for dropping by. I had a ton of fun. It's always super, super duper fun to get these new agile tools in the works, in the books, learning about it. It's fun. And it's funny how each and every one of them gets the job done in different ways. So, you can, depending on the mood, if you want to spice things up, you can use one or the other. If you're pressed for time, go for the more traditional ones. But I'm really enjoying this. I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to do it. But yeah, guys, I really don't have much else for you today because we do have 3 more minutes here on the focus cycle, but I need to get out of here in about 10. So maybe I'll just chill for the last 5 here. And if you guys have any questions or just want to chill, obviously I'll let you end this little focus cycle. But yeah, I'll just check my emails and spend the time with you guys till this last little focus cycle is up. All right, guys, that was a super fun session. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here always, and I'm looking forward to streaming in the weekend. I know I'm catching up on that mm, consistency, and I'm super, super stoked about it. I know that things are starting to be a little bit more interactive. I have more things to share with you guys, and yeah, that gets me so, so pumped. Thanks for being here. Oh, if you like the music, definitely let me know. I want to keep things fresh and interesting. I was getting a little bit tired of that last playlist, but it's hard to gauge if the music is going to be good when you are like randomly looking for playlists. So if you have recommendations or if you like this one, definitely let me know. Put it in the chat for next time. And yeah, that is it, guys. I really thank you for being here, and I hope that you have a good one. I'll see you next time, friends. Have a good one.